The sound was sickening. It wasn't just the thud of a body hitting the polished airport tile. It was the metallic crash of a dozen service medals. Silver stars, purple hearts, the trident scattering across the floor of Terminal 3. 1 second, Commander Malik Thorne was standing tall in his dress blues, a hero returning home. The next, he was face down, handcuffed with Officer Blaine Whitaker, screaming stolen valor into his ear. Whitaker thought he was taking down a fraud. He thought he was the hero, but he didn't know that the phone in Thorne's pocket was still connected to a conference call with the Pentagon. And he definitely didn't know that the entire might of the United States Navy was about to descend on this airport and turn his life into a living nightmare. Commander Malik Thorne adjusted the collar of his service dress blues, the stiff fabric digging slightly into a neck that was scarred from a piece of shrapnel taken outside Kandahar. He checked his reflection in the darkened window of the Hudson newsstand. He didn't do this for vanity. He did it because the uniform demanded perfection. Not for him, but for the men he had buried wearing it. Chicago O'Hare International Airport was a chaotic symphony of rolling suitcases, screaming toddlers, and the droning voice of the PA system announcing delayed flights. It was usually a lull period, but a storm front moving through the Midwest had grounded half the fleet, turning the terminal into a holding pen for agitated travelers. Malik stood near the baggage claim exit, his posture relaxed, but his eyes scanning the crowd with a predator's awareness. A habit drilled into him in the teams. He wasn't on a mission today. He was on the most nerve-wracking assignment of his career, picking up his 6-year-old daughter, Zara, who was flying unaccompanied from her grandmother's house in D.C. It had been months since his last deployment, months of missed birthdays and pixelated video calls. Today, he wanted to look like the hero she thought he was. He checked his wrist. Her flight was landing at gate K-12. He was early. He was always early. "Excuse me, sir." A timid voice piped up. Malik looked down to see an elderly woman struggling with a heavy carry-on bag near the escalator. His face, usually stoic and intimidating to those who didn't know him, softened. "Let me get that for you, ma'am." He lifted the bag with effortless grace, carrying it to the check-in counter for her. She beamed at him, touching the gold stripes on his sleeve. "You look sharp, son." "Navy." "Yes, ma'am." "SEAL teams," Malik said quietly, almost a whisper. He didn't like advertising it, but the uniform spoke for itself today. "God bless you," she whispered, squeezing his hand. Malik nodded and returned to his spot near a concrete pillar, a vantage point that offered a clear view of the security exit without obstructing foot traffic. He pulled out his phone. He had a scheduled briefing with Admiral Vaughn's aide at the Pentagon regarding the logistics of his unit's next training cycle. It was a low-level admin call, mostly listening, so he popped in a single earbud, leaving the other ear open to the room. "Thorne, here," he said into the mic, his voice a deep baritone. "I'm on the line. Go ahead, Lieutenant." As he listened to the breakdown of budget allocations, his eyes locked onto a figure moving through the crowd. It wasn't a threat, at least not a terrorist threat. It was an airport police officer weaving through the passengers with a swagger that demanded space. Officer Blaine Whitaker was a man who wore his badge like a crown. He was 5 feet 10 inches, but walked like he was 6 feet 4 inches. His thumbs hooked into a tactical vest that was overloaded with gear he would likely never use inside an airport terminal. Whitaker had been on the force for years, stuck in the airport division after a series of excessive enthusiasm complaints in the patrol division. He was bored, he was divorced, and he was looking for a win. To Whitaker, the airport wasn't a transit hub, it was his kingdom. And in his kingdom, nobody stood out unless he allowed it. His eyes landed on Malik, a tall, broad-shouldered black man in a Navy uniform. Whitaker paused, squinting. He'd seen plenty of soldiers come through O'Hare. They usually looked tired, disheveled, carrying duffel bags. This guy, he looked too perfect. The crease in the trousers was too sharp. The medals on his chest were stacked too high. A fruit salad, as Whitaker called it. And the shoes, they were gleaming. Nobody shines their shoes like that anymore, Whitaker thought, a cynical sneer forming. Not unless they're trying too hard to sell the con. Whitaker had read an article online the night before about stolen valor. Civilians dressing up as military personnel to get free upgrades or discounts. It made his blood boil. He fancied himself a guardian of patriotism, despite never having served a day in his life due to flat feet. A lie, he told. He'd actually failed the psychological eval. He watched Malik speaking into his headset, probably scamming a free meal or trying to pick up women, Whitaker assumed. He adjusted his belt, feeling the weight of his taser and baton. This was it. This was the bust that would get him back on the streets. He was going to take down a fraud. "Hey!" Whitaker barked, cutting through the ambient noise of the terminal. Malik didn't respond. He was listening to the lieutenant in D.C. explain a discrepancy in the ammunition budget. Whitaker's face flushed. He wasn't used to being ignored. He marched over, his boots heavy on the floor, closing the distance between them aggressively. He stopped 2 feet from Malik, invading his personal space. I said, "Hey, you deaf buddy." Malik blinked, sliding his gaze from the exit doors to the red-faced officer in front of him. He held up a finger, signaling 1 minute, and tapped his earbud. "Lieutenant, hold one. I have a situation here." "Who are you talking to?" Whitaker demanded, his hand resting instinctively on his baton. "And take those damn things out of your ears when an officer of the law is speaking to you." Malik sighed, the air hissing through his nose. He tapped the mute button on his phone, but kept the line open. He removed the earbud. "Can I help you, officer?" "You can help me by explaining what you're doing loitering in a secure transit zone," Whitaker said, his voice rising in volume. People were starting to look. "I'm waiting for my daughter." "Her flight lands soon," Malik said calmly. His voice was steady, the voice of a man who had negotiated with warlords and defused IEDs. This fat, angry cop was not a stressor. He was an inconvenience. "Waiting for your daughter," Whitaker mocked. He looked Malik up and down, his eyes lingering on the trident, the gold eagle and anchor holding a trident and pistol pinned above Malik's ribbons. "That's a lot of hardware for a guy just standing around." "You a SEAL, huh?" "That's correct," Malik said. "Navy SEAL," Whitaker repeated loudly, turning his head so the nearby passengers could hear. "We got a hero here, folks, a Navy SEAL." He turned back to Malik, his smile vanishing. "Let me see your ID." "I don't need to show you my ID unless I'm being detained or suspected of a crime," Malik said. He knew the law better than Whitaker did. "I'm standing in a public area." "Refusal to identify," Whitaker muttered, stepping closer. "You're wearing a federal uniform. That makes it my business. I've seen guys like you buying a costume at the surplus store, coming down here to get free drinks at the Admiral's Club. It's sick." Malik's eyes hardened. "Officer, I suggest you walk away. I am Commander Malik Thorne, United States Navy. I am currently on a call with the Pentagon. Do not make this a problem." Whitaker laughed. It was a harsh, barking sound. "The Pentagon. Oh, that's rich. You're on the phone with the Pentagon. Let me guess. The President is on the other line, too." "Actually," Malik said, his patience thinning. "I'm speaking with the office of Admiral Vaughn." "Sure you are," Whitaker sneered, "and I'm the King of England." The crowd had stopped moving. The rush of travelers had congealed into a ring of spectators, phones raised, recording. In the modern era, nothing happened unless it was streamed. Malik saw the phones. He knew the drill. De-escalate. Maintain bearing. Do not engage. "Officer," Malik said, lowering his voice to try and keep this private, "I am asking you respectfully to let me wait for my child. I have identification in my pocket, but I am not going to hand it to you just because you're bored. If you want to verify my status, call the base. But stop making a scene. I'm the one making a scene." Whitaker shouted, playing to the crowd. "You're the one disrespecting the uniform. You think you can just put that on and we'll all bow down? I know a fake when I see one. Your hair is too long." Malik's hair was well within regulations, perhaps a millimeter longer on the top than a fresh buzz, but perfectly groomed. "My grooming standards are in compliance with naval regulations." Malik said, "Officer, last warning, step back." Whitaker's ego was fully engaged now. He couldn't back down. Not in front of the crowd, not when he was so sure. This guy was too calm. Real people got nervous when cops yelled at them. Real people stuttered. This guy was looking at him like he was a bug on a windshield. It infuriated Whitaker. "Put your hands behind your back," Whitaker ordered, unclipping his handcuffs. "For what?" Malik asked, not moving. "Disorderly conduct, loitering, and suspicion of impersonating a military officer, which is a federal crime." "Buddy, I am not impersonating anyone," Malik said. "I am Commander Thorne. Hands now." Whitaker reached out and grabbed Malik's left wrist. Malik didn't flinch. His arm was like a steel bar. He didn't pull away, but he didn't yield either. He just stood there, rooted to the ground. "Do not touch me." Whitaker yanked. Nothing happened. It was like trying to pull a tree out of the ground. Panic flared in Whitaker's chest. The panic of a bully who realizes he's picked the wrong victim. But instead of retreating, he lashed out. Resisting arrest, Whitaker screamed. He let go of the wrist and, in a move that violated half a dozen departmental policies, swept his leg behind Malik's knee while simultaneously shoving him in the chest with both hands. Malik could have countered it. He could have broken Whitaker's arm in 3 places before the officer hit the ground. But Malik knew the cameras were rolling. If he struck a police officer, no matter how justified, his career was over. The narrative would be Seal beats up cop. He had to take it. So Malik let himself fall. He went down, but he controlled it, turning his shoulder to absorb the impact. But the floor was hard, and the angle was bad. Crash. Malik hit the tile. The sound of his metals scraping and snapping against the floor echoed through the silent terminal. A collective gasp went up from the crowd. "Oh my God!" a woman screamed. Whitaker didn't hesitate. He dropped his knee, all 230 pounds of him, directly into the small of Malik's back, right where the kidneys are. Malik grunted. The wind knocked out of him. Pain flared white-hot, but he bit his tongue. "Stop fighting! Stop resisting!" Whitaker yelled for the benefit of the cameras. Even though Malik was lying perfectly still, face pressed against the cold floor, Whitaker wrenched Malik's arms behind his back, forcing them up toward his shoulder blades until the joints popped. He slapped the cuffs on, ratcheting them tight. Too tight. The metal bit into Malik's wrists. "You're done, pal," Whitaker hissed, leaning down, his spit landing on Malik's cheek. "You are so done. I'm going to expose you to the world. You're going to rot in a cell tonight." Malik took a deep breath, tasting the floor cleaner. His cheek was pressed against the tile. He could see his cell phone lying a few feet away. The screen was still on. The call timer was still counting up. "Officer," Malik said, his voice strained but audible. "My phone. Evidence." Whitaker said, snatching the phone up. He looked at the screen. It said, "Logistics Pentagon." Whitaker scoffed. "You even renamed your contacts to sell the lie." Pathetic. He went to end the call, but just before his thumb hit the red button, a voice crackled from the speakerphone. Loud, clear, and terrifyingly authoritative. "Commander Thorne." "Commander, this is Lieutenant Commander Harlan." "Who is speaking? What is happening?" I heard a struggle. Whitaker froze. That didn't sound like a buddy in a basement. That sounded like a secure line. "Who is this?" Whitaker barked into the phone. "This is Lieutenant Commander Harlan, Office of the Chief of Naval Operations." The voice cut back sharp as a razor. "You are holding the phone of a decorated United States naval commander. Identify yourself immediately." Whitaker's stomach dropped. A cold sweat prickled his hairline, but he was too deep in. He couldn't be wrong. He couldn't be. "This is Officer Blaine Whitaker, Chicago PD Airport Division. Your commander here is in custody for impersonating an officer and resisting arrest. And you can save the act, buddy. I know he's a fake." There was a silence on the other end of the line. A silence that felt heavy, like the air before a tornado touches down. "Officer Whitaker," the lieutenant commander said, his voice dropping an octave, deadly calm. "You have made a catastrophic error. Do not hang up this phone. Do not move Commander Thorne. And for your sake, you better pray you haven't injured him. I am patching in Admiral Vaughn. Stand by." Whitaker's thumb hovered over the end call button. His heart was hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. Navy Cross? Homeland Security? "He's lying," Whitaker muttered to himself. "It's a scam. It's a really good scam." He looked down at Malik. Malik looked up, his eyes clear and calm. "My daughter lands soon. If she sees me in cuffs, I will make it my personal mission to ensure you never work in security again. Not even as a mall cop." "You threatened me!" Whitaker shouted, playing to the crowd again. "You heard that! He threatened an officer." "Hey!" a voice yelled from the crowd. Whitaker spun around. A man in his 60s wearing a faded USMC baseball cap and a denim jacket pushed his way to the front of the circle. He was leaning on a cane, but his eyes were sharp. "Back off, citizen," Whitaker warned. The old Marine pointed his cane at Malik's chest. "I served in Da Nang. I know a ribbon rack when I see one. I know what a trident is. You see that gold badge? You don't buy that at a surplus store, you idiot. You earn that in hell." The Marine looked Whitaker dead in the eye. "You just put cuffs on a seal. You better have a damn good reason, son, or you're about to be in a world of hurt." Whitaker felt the room shrinking. The crowd was murmuring now. "Let him up," someone shouted. "He didn't do anything," another voice cried. "Back up, all of you." Whitaker pulled his baton, brandishing it at the civilians. He was losing control. The narrative was flipping. He was no longer the hero. He was the villain, and he knew it. "Dispatch!" Whitaker screamed into his radio. "I need backup now. Officer in distress. Hostile crowd." "Officer in distress," Malik said from the floor. "The only thing in distress right now is your pension." Suddenly, the automatic doors near the baggage claim slid open. Two men in dark suits wearing earpieces and sunglasses walked in. They didn't run. They moved with a terrifyingly efficient speed. They weren't airport security. They weren't Chicago PD. They scanned the room, saw the circle of people, saw Whitaker waving a baton, and saw the man in the dress blues face down on the floor. One of the suits tapped his earpiece. Target acquired. Situation is volatile. Whitaker saw them. He didn't know who they were, but he saw the badges clipped to their belts. FBI. Over here, Whitaker yelled, trying to regain authority. Federal agents. Good. I have a suspect. The lead agent didn't even look at Whitaker. He looked at Malik. Commander Thorne. That's me. Malik grunted. The agent looked at Whitaker. It was a look of pure disgust. Unlock him now. Excuse me, Whitaker sputtered. This man is under arrest for… I am Special Agent Ronan, FBI, the man said, flashing his badge, and you are interfering with a federal operation involving a high-ranking military asset. Admiral Vaughn just briefed us. Unlock him, or I will arrest you for obstruction of justice and assault on a federal officer. Whitaker's hands shook so badly he dropped the key. It clattered onto the tile next to Malik's face. Pick it up, Agent Ronan commanded. Whitaker bent down, his face burning with humiliation. He picked up the key, he jammed it into the handcuffs. Click! Malik didn't scramble up. He moved slowly, testing his back. He rolled his shoulders. He stood up to his full height. He towered over Whitaker. He brushed the dust off his trousers, adjusted his medals, which were thankfully just scratched, not broken, and checked his tie. He held out his hand. My phone. Whitaker, pale and sweating, handed the phone over. Malik put it to his ear. Admiral, I'm secure. Commander. Admiral Vaughn's voice came through loud enough for Agent Ronan to hear. Are you injured? Minor contusion, sir. Nothing that will stop me from the mission. Good. Stay put. The cavalry is arriving. Cavalry? Malik asked. Sir, the FBI is already here. That's not the cavalry, son, the Admiral said with a dark chuckle. That's just the welcoming committee. I've just got off the phone with the mayor of Chicago. At that moment, the airport PA system chimed. But instead of a flight announcement, a breathless voice spoke. Officer Blaine Whitaker, report to the security desk immediately. Chief of Police Donovan is en route. Whitaker looked at Malik. The blood had drained from his face completely. Malik checked his watch. He turned to the arrival gate. The lights above gate K-12 flashed. Flight arrived. Malik turned his back on Whitaker as if the man didn't exist. Agent Ronan, can you ensure this individual stays away from me and my daughter? With pleasure, Commander, Ronan said, stepping between them. The doors to the jet bridge opened. A stream of passengers poured out, looking tired and disheveled. Malik stood at the barrier, ignoring the throbbing pain in his lower back. He forced a smile, the kind that reached his eyes. Then he saw her. Zara, with her pink backpack and messy pigtails, clutching a stuffed bear he had sent her from Germany. She looked small, overwhelmed by the crowd. An airline attendant was guiding her. "Daddy!" she screamed, breaking away from the attendant. She ran. Malik dropped to one knee, ignoring the sharp stab of pain in his bruised kidney, and opened his arms. She slammed into him, burying her face in his neck. "I missed you. I missed you. I missed you," she squealed. "I missed you too, baby girl," Malik whispered, closing his eyes. For a moment, the anger, the humiliation, the cop, the FBI, it all vanished. There was only the smell of her strawberry shampoo and the weight of her in his arms. "Did you catch the bad guys?" she asked, pulling back to look at his uniform. She touched the medals. "You look like a prince." Malik laughed, a genuine sound. "Something like that. Come on, let's get your bag. He stood up, lifting her effortlessly onto his hip. As he turned, the reality of the situation crashed back in. The area around the baggage claim had been cordoned off. Yellow tape was being strung up. But it wasn't a crime scene for Malik anymore. Standing outside the tape was a phalanx of uniformed officers. But these weren't airport beat cops. These were the white-shirted brass. In the center stood a man with 4 stars on his collar. Chief Donovan, the head of the Chicago Police Department. Beside him was a severe-looking woman in a pantsuit, the airport's legal director. And between them, stripped of his tactical vest and baton, stood Blaine Whitaker. He wasn't swaggering anymore. He was slumped, his face gray. Chief Donovan spotted Malik and walked over, ducking under the tape. He approached Malik with a hand extended, but stopped when he saw Malik's cold stare. "Commander Thorne," the chief said, his voice tight. "I am Chief Donovan. On behalf of the Chicago Police Department, I want to offer my profound apologies." Malik looked at the chief, then at Zara, then back at the chief. "Chief, my daughter is 6 years old. She doesn't need to know that her father was assaulted by a public servant minutes ago, so we are going to keep this voice down." "Understood," Donovan said, lowering his voice. "I have just spoken with the mayor and Admiral Vaughn. This is a disaster, an absolute disaster." "It's a misunderstanding," Whitaker blurted out from behind the tape. He couldn't help himself. He wouldn't show ID. He resisted. Silence. The chief spun around, his face turning purple. "One more word, Whitaker, and I will have you gagged. You attacked a decorated veteran of the force based on a hunch. You violated 4 distinct protocols regarding use of force. You are a disgrace to the badge." Whitaker shrank back, stunned. He had never seen the chief in person, let alone been dressed down by him. Malik shifted Zara to his other hip. "Chief, I appreciate the apology, but apologies don't fix my uniform, and they don't fix the fact that I was treated like a criminal in front of 100 civilians. We are prepared to do whatever is necessary." The legal director stepped in. "We can arrange a settlement." "Beacon." "I don't want your money," Malik cut her off. "I want his badge," he pointed at Whitaker. "I want him processed," Malik continued, his voice hard as steel. "I want him charged with assault and battery. I want him charged with false imprisonment. And I want it done by the book. No blue wall of silence, no paid administrative leave." "Commander," the chief sighed, wiping sweat from his forehead, "we will conduct a full internal affairs investigation. I promise you." "Not good enough," Malik said. He pulled his phone out. "Admiral, you still there?" "I'm here, Malik." "Donovan says they will do an internal investigation." "That's cute." The Admiral said, "Chief Donovan, this is Admiral Vaughn. If that officer isn't booked into county lockup by sundown, I am contacting the Judge Advocate General. We will classify this as an assault on federal personnel impeding a military operation. We will take jurisdiction. Do you want the Navy prosecuting your officer, Chief, or do you want to handle your own trash?" Chief Donovan looked like he was about to be sick. The threat was clear. If the military stepped in, it became a federal case. The press would eat the department alive. "That won't be necessary, Admiral," Donovan said quickly. He turned to 2 burly sergeants standing nearby. "Take Officer Whitaker into custody. Suspend him without pay, effective immediately. Charge him with aggravated battery and misconduct." "Chief, you can't!" Whitaker screamed as the sergeants grabbed his arms. "I was doing my job. He's a suspect." "Get him out of here," Donovan barked. The crowd, which had stuck around to watch the second act, erupted into applause as Whitaker was frog-marched away, handcuffed with his own cuffs. The irony was poetic. Malik watched him go, his expression unreadable. He felt no joy, only a grim satisfaction. It was a mission accomplished. Threat neutralized. "Daddy, why is that policeman in trouble?" Zara asked, wide-eyed. Malik smoothed her hair. "He made a mistake, baby. A big mistake. He forgot the most important rule." "What rule?" "Respect," Malik said. "He forgot to treat people with respect." He looked at Chief Donovan. "Am I free to go, Chief, or do you need me to identify myself further?" "Please." The chief gestured to the exit. "We will have a car take you to your destination. It's the least we can do." "No thanks," Malik said, hoisting his duffel bag. "I've had enough of police cars for one day. I'll take a cab." He walked away, the sea of people parting for him. He walked tall, despite the pain in his back, holding his daughter's hand. He was the picture of dignity. But the story wasn't over. Malik knew that men like Whitaker didn't go quietly. And the video, the one the teenager in the hoodie had recorded, was already uploading. By the time Malik got to his hotel, Stolen Valor Cop would be trending #1 worldwide. And that was when the real war would begin. Because while the military had destroyed Whitaker's career, the internet was about to destroy his life. By the time Commander Malik Thorne and his daughter Zara were safely inside their hotel room, eating room service pizza and watching cartoons, the world outside was burning. The video uploaded by the teenager at the airport had gone live on TikTok. It had migrated to Twitter/X and Reddit. It was the lead story on CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC. The title of the Reddit thread on r/public freakout was simple but devastating. Power-tripping cop assaults, Navy SEAL commander in front of his kid, claims stolen valor. Inside his modest, dimly lit apartment on the outskirts of Chicago, suspended Officer Blaine Whitaker sat in his recliner, a lukewarm beer in his hand, staring at his phone. His hands were shaking so hard he could barely hold the device. He watched the video for the 100th time. On screen, Malik stands calmly. Whitaker screams. Whitaker kicks the leg, the sickening crunch of metals hitting the floor, the knee in the back. But it was the audio that was killing him. The internet sleuths had enhanced the sound. You could hear Malik's calm warnings. "I am Commander Thorne." The comment section was a scrolling waterfall of hate. "This cop needs to be under the jail. That's a silver star he broke. Do you know what you have to do to get a silver star? I served with Commander Thorne in Coronado. The man is a saint. This cop has a death wish." Whitaker threw his phone across the room. It bounced off the drywall and cracked. "They don't know." He screamed at the empty room. "They don't know the pressure." He looked suspicious. His landline rang. It had been ringing. Death threats, prank calls, reporters. He let it go to voicemail. Then his cell phone buzzed. It was a number he didn't recognize, but the area code was 202, DC. He answered, hoping it was a lawyer offering help. "Hello, is this Mr. Blaine Whitaker?" A slick, fast-talking voice answered. "Yeah? Who's this?" "This is unnamed producer for the Tucker Carlson Network or similar high-profile media. We saw the video. We think you're being railroaded, Blaine. We think this is a setup by the woke military agenda. We want to hear your side. Tonight, prime time." Whitaker's eyes lit up. This was it, the lifeline. He wasn't the villain. He was the victim of a misunderstood encounter. He could spin this. "I'll do it," Whitaker said, sitting up straighter. "But I want to get paid." "We can discuss an honorarium," the producer said. "Just get to the studio in downtown Chicago." Meanwhile, at the Pentagon, Admiral Vaughn sat in his office watching the same video on a large monitor. Standing before him were the Navy's top JAG lawyers and the Chief of Naval Information, CHINFO. "The narrative is spiraling, sir," the public affairs officer said. "People are furious. They want blood. But now we're hearing rumors that Whitaker is going on a talk show tonight to claim Thorne provoked him." Vaughn's eyes narrowed. He took a sip of his coffee. "He wants to fight this in the media." "It appears so, sir. He's going to claim Thorne was aggressive, and that the camera angle is misleading." Vaughn stood up and walked to the window overlooking the Potomac. "Commander Thorne is a quiet professional. He won't go on TV. He won't lower himself to a shouting match. That means we have to speak for him." The Admiral turned back to the room. "Release the audio." The JAG lawyer frowned. "Sir, the audio from the phone call." "Yes," Vaughn commanded. "The call was recorded on our secure servers for logistical archiving. It captures the entire interaction from Thorne's pocket. It captures the assault. It captures Whitaker admitting he didn't care who Thorne was." "Sir, that's highly unusual," the lawyer warned. "This man assaulted a SEAL who was on an active duty call," Vaughn said, his voice leaving no room for argument. "He disgraced the uniform. If he wants to go on TV and lie, I will make sure the truth is waiting for him. Release the tape to the Associated Press. Embargo it for 5 minutes after his interview starts." Vaughn smiled grimly. "Let's see how he handles a live fact check." The makeup artist was dabbing powder on Whitaker's sweating forehead. He was sitting in a leather chair in the studio, the lights blindingly bright. He felt important again. "And we're live in 3, 2, 1. The host, a man known for his aggressive anti-establishment rhetoric, leaned in. "Tonight, we have the man the media loves to hate, Officer Blaine Whitaker. Blaine, you're being called a monster. But you say there's more to the story." Whitaker cleared his throat. He had rehearsed this in the car. "That's right. Look, the video starts late. What you don't see is this guy. He was aggressive. He was shouting profanities. He refused to show ID. In this climate with terrorism, I can't take chances. I thought he was a threat." "So, you felt he was posing a danger to the airport?" "Absolutely." Whitaker lied, gaining confidence. He made a move toward his waistband. "I used necessary force to neutralize a potential shooter. I'm the victim here. The Navy is just trying to save face because one of their guys was acting like a thug." Whitaker felt a rush of adrenaline. He was doing it. He was turning the tide. Then the host paused. He touched his earpiece. His expression changed from sympathetic to confused, then to shark-like. "Blaine," the host said, looking down at a tablet on his desk. "We're getting some breaking news. The Pentagon has just declassified the audio recording of the phone call Commander Thorne was on during the arrest." Whitaker's stomach turned to ice water. "Audio. Yes. Let's play a clip." The studio speakers blasted the clear, high-definition audio recorded by the Pentagon's secure line. Thorne calmly. "Officer, I suggest you walk away. I am Commander Malik Thorne." Whitaker screaming. "I'm the King of England." "Thorne, do not touch me." Whitaker resisting arrest. Sounds of a struggle. Thorne grunting in pain. "Whitaker, I'm going to expose you. You're going to rot." The silence in the studio after the clip ended was deafening. The host looked at Whitaker. The sympathy was gone. The host knew he had been played, and he didn't like looking stupid. "Blaine," the host said, his voice dripping with venom, "you just told me he was shouting profanities. On that tape, he sounds perfectly calm. You sound unhinged. It's doctored. Whitaker shouted, standing up. That's AI. It's a fake. It was released by the Department of Defense with a digital chain of custody. The host snapped. Sit down. No. Whitaker panicked. He looked at the camera. They're framing me. I'm a good cop. Cut his mic, the host said to the producer. Whitaker's mouth kept moving, but no sound came out. The camera panned away from him as security guards moved in to escort him off the set. He was walked out the back door of the studio into a rainy Chicago alley. He checked his phone. The hashtag Whitaker lied was trending #1. But the night wasn't over. As he walked toward his car, he saw a figure leaning against the brick wall. A man in a tailored suit holding a briefcase. Mr. Whitaker? The man asked. Who are you? Another reporter. Whitaker spat. No. The man smiled, handing him a thick envelope. My name is Harlan Brooks. I represent the law firm of Goldman Sachs and Associates. I've been retained by the Fraternal Order of Police Legal Defense Fund. Oh, thank God. Whitaker exhaled. You're here to defend me. Brooks laughed. It was a cold, dry sound. No, Mr. Whitaker. You misunderstood. I'm here to inform you that the union has voted to revoke your membership and legal protection. Effective immediately. You violated the morals clause of your contract. Whitaker froze. Without the union, he had no lawyer. He had no protection against the city. And Brooks added, I am also here to serve you with this. He tapped the envelope. This is a civil suit filed on behalf of Commander Thorne. He is suing you personally for defamation, assault, battery, and emotional distress caused to a minor. He is seeking damages in the amount of $5 million. I don't have $5 million, Whitaker shrieked. I have a 2015 Ford Taurus and a condo underwater. Then we will take the Taurus, Brooks said calmly, and the condo and your future wages. Have a good night, Mr. Whitaker. The lawyer walked away, leaving Whitaker standing in the rain, holding the envelope that marked the end of his life as he knew it. Whitaker didn't go home. He slept in his car. He reported to the Internal Affairs Division at CPD headquarters. The room was gray, windowless, and smelled of stale coffee. Across the metal table sat Captain Landon from IA, and to Whitaker's horror, a tall man in a Navy service khaki uniform, a JAG officer. Officer Whitaker, Captain Landon started. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney. I can't afford an attorney, Whitaker mumbled. The union dropped me. Then a public defender will be appointed, Landon said, not bothering to hide his disdain. However, before we proceed with the criminal charges, we are here to handle your employment status. Landon slid a folder across the table. We pulled your jacket, Blaine. We found 6 previous complaints of excessive force that were swept under the rug by your previous supervisor. That supervisor has been fired as of this morning. Whitaker put his head in his hands. But here is the kicker. The Navy JAG officer spoke up. We ran a background check on your initial application to the police academy. You claimed you were honorably discharged from the Army Reserve. Whitaker looked up, pale as a sheet. We checked the records, the JAG officer continued. You never served. You failed basic training and were separated for failure to adapt. You lied on your police application. That is perjury. That is fraud. Captain Landon leaned in. Do you know what that means, Blaine? It means you were never legally a police officer. It means every arrest you ever made is now subject to appeal. It means your pension is gone. Your benefits are gone. And you are looking at 5 to 10 years in state prison for fraud on top of the assault charges. Whitaker began to weep. ugly, heaving sobs. "I just wanted to be a hero," he blubbered. "I just wanted people to respect me." "Respect is earned," the JAG officer said, standing up and gathering his files. "Commander Thorne earned it in Kandahar and Helmand. You tried to steal it by bullying a man in front of his child. That is the definition of stolen valor." Captain Landon stood up as well. "Stand up, Mr. Whitaker. You are under arrest." The Cook County Courthouse was besieged. The trial of the people versus Blaine Whitaker had become a national spectacle, a symbol of the reckoning between accountability and abuse of power. Inside Courtroom 402, the air was stale and thick with tension. Malik Thorne sat in the front row, dressed not in his uniform, but in a charcoal gray suit. He looked like a civilian, a father, just a man. Beside him sat Admiral Vaughn, who had flown in from D.C. just for this moment. His presence sent a clear message to the judge. The United States Navy is watching. Blaine Whitaker sat at the defense table. He looked deflated. Gone was the swagger, the tactical vest, the sneer. He had lost 30 pounds. His cheap suit hung loosely on his frame. He looked small. The trial had been a disaster for the defense. The prosecution had played the airport security footage, the cell phone video, and the damning audio from the Pentagon call. They had brought in the human resources director from the Chicago Police Department to testify about Whitaker's fraudulent application. They had brought in a spinal specialist to testify about the long-term damage to Malik's lower back. But the final nail in the coffin was Whitaker's own testimony. Under cross-examination, he had crumbled, admitting that he targeted Malik simply because he looked too clean to be real. It was an admission of bias that gasped through the courtroom. Judge Martha Reynolds, a woman known for her zero-tolerance policy on public corruption, shuffled her papers. She adjusted her glasses and looked down at Whitaker. "Mr. Whitaker, please stand." Blaine stood up, his legs shaking. "In my years on the bench," Judge Reynolds began, her voice echoing in the silent room, "I have seen many officers make mistakes in the heat of the moment. Danger is real, and split-second decisions are difficult. But this," she held up the case file, "this was not a split-second decision. This was a sustained act of ego, malice, and bullying." She leaned forward. "You targeted a man who has given more to this country in a single deployment than you have in your entire life. You mocked his service. You assaulted him while he was compliant. And then when caught, you lied to the world on national television." Whitaker looked down at his shoes. "But the most egregious offense," the judge continued, "is the betrayal of the public trust. You wore a badge you didn't earn. You held power you didn't deserve. You are the very definition of a wolf in sheep's clothing." "Your Honor, please," Whitaker whispered. "I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix a fractured vertebra, Mr. Whitaker, and it doesn't restore the faith of the community." The judge picked up her gavel. "On the charge of aggravated battery, I sentence you to 5 years in the Illinois Department of Corrections. On the charge of impersonating a peace officer and fraud, I sentence you to an additional 5 years. These sentences are to run consecutively." Whitaker's knees buckled. 10 years. "Furthermore," the judge added, "you are ordered to pay restitution to Commander Thorne in the amount of $250,000. Since you have no assets, your future wages will be garnished by 40% until the debt is paid. You will never work in security or law enforcement again. Bailiff, take him away." As the gavel banged, crack, the courtroom erupted. 2 bailiffs moved in, pulling Whitaker's hands behind his back. The sound of the handcuffs ratcheting shut was the same sound Whitaker had used on Malik. The karma was precise. Whitaker looked back at the gallery as he was led out. He locked eyes with Malik. He expected to see a smirk, a look of triumph. But Malik just looked tired. There was no joy in sending a man to prison. There was only the necessary duty of removing a threat. Malik gave him a single slow nod. A nod that said, "It's over." Then the door slammed shut, and Blaine Whitaker was gone. The sun was setting over the Anacostia River in Washington, D.C. The air was crisp, smelling of autumn leaves. Captain Malik Thorne stood on the meticulously manicured lawn of the Washington Navy Yard. The promotion ceremony had been small, just as he requested. No cameras, no fanfare. Admiral Vaughn pinned the new insignia on Malik's collar, the silver eagle of a Navy captain. "You earned this, Malik," Vaughn said, shaking his hand. "And you earned it again in Chicago. Most men would have fought back. You had the discipline to let the system work, even when the system was trying to break you." "Thank you, Admiral," Malik said. "I just wanted to get home to Zara." Speaking of which, Vaughn smiled, pointing towards the buffet table. Zara, now missing a front tooth, was running in circles with the Admiral's golden retriever. She was laughing, a sound pure and unburdened by the darkness her father had shielded her from. Malik walked over to her. She stopped running and looked up at him, squinting in the sunlight. "Daddy, are you a pirate now?" she asked, pointing to the eagle. Malik laughed, picking her up. "No, sweetie, still just a sailor." "Are you going away again?" she asked, her voice turning serious. "Not for a long time," Malik promised. He had taken a shore-duty assignment at the Pentagon to oversee training protocols. He was done with the sandbox for a while. He had a different mission now, raising her. He sat on a bench holding Zara on his lap, looking out at the river. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it. He didn't care about the news anymore. But if he had looked, he would have seen a small article on page 14 of the Chicago Tribune. Former officer Blaine Whitaker denied protective custody. The article detailed how Whitaker, now inmate number 482910, was having a difficult adjustment period at Stateville Correctional Center. The general population didn't take kindly to dirty cops. He was working in the laundry room for 12 cents an hour, scrubbing stains out of uniforms he would never wear again. He had lost his condo. His wife had left him. He was alone in a concrete box, with nothing but time to think about those minutes at the airport. Malik didn't need to know that. He didn't need to gloat. The universe had balanced the scales. He looked down at Zara. "You know, baby, there's one thing I learned this year." "What's that, Daddy?" "That being strong doesn't mean you have to fight everyone," Malik said softly. "Sometimes being strong just means standing your ground and telling the truth. The truth always wins eventually." Zara rested her head on his shoulder, tracing the silver eagle on his collar. "I know you're my hero." Malik closed his eyes, feeling the warmth of the sun and the weight of his daughter. He wasn't a hero because of the medals or the rank or the wars. He was a hero because he had kept his promise to return to her. And for Captain Malik Thorne, that was the only victory that mattered. And that is the story of how minutes of arrogance cost a man his entire life. Blaine Whitaker thought the uniform made the man, but he learned the hard way that it's the character underneath that counts. He mistook Commander Thorne's silence for weakness, not realizing it was the terrifying discipline of a warrior who knew exactly how dangerous he really was. It's a powerful reminder to all of us. Treat everyone with respect, whether they're a CEO, a janitor, or a quiet man standing at the airport. You never know who you're talking to, and you never know when the karma you dish out is going to come back and knock you down. What would you have done if you were in Commander Thorne's shoes? Could you have kept your cool while being humiliated in front of your child? Or would you have fought back? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this story of justice served cold, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a story about karma hitting back. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next.